Hey everyone, welcome to a special episode of the Guile treatment.
Reaction video!
Huh?
It's a reaction video.
Oh, okay.
You gotta be reactive. It's like, ah!
12 hours later. Today that the next set is indeed Seventh Cross, as we speculated, last week? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, something like that. Rob's Conspiracy Corner on the live episode was actually the most watched part of the episode. I have actual, Nielsen ratings for that. I don't, right. But yeah. It'd be nice to have that.
We actually have Barrett this time, so that's change of pace. Nice. He had work, but then he didn't have work.
No, I didn't say I had work.
No, he was off all day. We were waiting on you mostly.
Okay, I had work.
There you go.
So yeah, Chris, do you want to go over the announcement or?
Yeah, I can. Jasco Games put a little. Actually, it was past 10 o'clock, so in the morning on Central Time, which is normally when they post all their crap on the website, like the YouTube, like the Jaffa's videos and stuff. But they started off with, after taking a delay release of Soul Calibur 6 into consideration, they decided to push back the release of 7th Cross 2 weeks from May 10th to May 24th. So that gives some people some breathing room, because I know a lot of us kind of went pretty big, went our normal size buy-ins on sets, and then we have Worlds in a couple weeks. So it kind of gives us a few weeks more breathing room to maybe, get our wallets back in shape. So
the thing is, they specifically said that it was due to community feedback.
Yeah.
And I know that was something that I sort of, I sort of told people that, if you don't want this set to come out when it's slated to come out, send them an email, call them, do whatever.
Yep.
As far as I know, this set has gone to print. Went to print on Monday of this week.
Yeah. Well, you know what's kind of weird though is this the set that they had ready, or do they still have a set that's ready?
I would imagine this one.
Yeah, I have a feeling.
Strong assumption it was this one because, what Rob was saying 2 weeks ago when we talked about it, the number one time constraint on all these sets is artwork, and as based off of what you have, there's a ton of artwork for this set already. Yeah. I agree. The fact that they gave us a release date and they're already willing to push it back makes me think they already have it actually packaged, and it's something they're going to give away at Worlds. Actually,
that'd be sweet. I'd take some.
Yeah.
But to continue on this, it's only an 88 card booster set, so it's the size of Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers. There's going to have new options and strategies to utilize and for combat. So that's a big speculatory thing we'll get into after a little bit. But it's kind of neat. Pre-orders are starting, I guess, next week. Which kind of makes sense.
They said next week they're going to release their information on pre-ordering.
Yep. And then we get 8 characters. Selinka Dejanette, not to be confused with Scott. Eugenia, Joffrey, Remulus, Taisei, Turnaloose, and Zolt, which is a cool thing. It's kind of neat. Or you can just call him Solt, and the Z is silent. But I think he's Zolt. It sounds better. But it's set in a 1929...
Did you just completely avoid the super French name?
What? Turnaloose?
Yeah.
I said Turnaloose. I might have said turn loose, footloose, footloose, put on your blue suede shoes, But he kind of reminds me of Mad Perot. You guys can see, Rob and Barrett can't see it, but I got a little slideshow going. He's the dude with the top hat with the magic cane. He's like, he looks
the cigar. Yeah.
And the cigar. Yeah, he's definitely, he's going to be a fan favorite just because he looks really cool. So I think so. But yeah. So yeah, let's go into, I'm excited. It's an 88 card set. That's kind of nice because that means you buy less to, unless they pack it full ultra rare like they did Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers. But most of it didn't matter.
Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers was still at least in my experience, was still a pretty easy set to get most of what you needed without, if you got a case on release, you pretty much got 2 to 3 of everything, ultra rare wise, and hopefully you get more of the ones that you want, and you get generally 5 to 8 of the rares, and in that case, you can just sort of trade for what you don't have or what you want.
Exactly.
Or you can buy less and, whatever.
Yeah,
part of the speculation that was going on in the Legendary Wolf chat was like, well, if it's the same size as Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers, how many ultra rares are there? So for Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers, there's 15, but the Ken one was like took the place of like an ultra rare, right? And so they were thinking like, well, are they going to do like a shiny character alternate art kind of thing? So it's the rough estimate is like 15 ultra rares. Some people saying 16 if they just don't do the character. So yeah, just with having 16 ultra rares, you get 6 per box. Like, you're probably just going to end up getting all you want. So
yeah, true.
How many characters were in Street Fighter vs. Darkstalkers? Was it 8 also?
Yeah, it was 8. It was 8 plus 2 box toppers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it should be about the same, like, breakdown, commons, uncommons, and ultra rares, ultra rares. I would assume.
I thought there were less backpage things, but
no, there was. I'm gonna hope. Well, we're probably gonna have 8 backpage 88. So will that break into backpage too?
You want my math? Here's my math.
Do your math, math wizard.
All right, so it's an 88 card set that usually includes box toppers because that's the number out of number, right? Yeah. So 88. So if there's 8 characters, each character has a page of cards, which is 9. Yep. So 8 times 9 is 72. This is where you're like, okay, well, if there's 72, but you still have 88 cards, let's say there's 1 box topper. So then you have 15 cards you still have to work on. And so then people are like, well, if there's 15 cards, that's like 2 end of set pages essentially, or like 1.5 kind of. And so I think this is where you can kind of start talking about, well, the interesting thing about this lore in the world is that all of these characters have second forms. They're like monster forms. And so there's this debate on like, what you were talking about, the like new combat strategy thing for UFS are these going to be like flip characters, like characters that you flip over and they become their monster form. And although I think that's a really cool idea and a new way to bring something to UFS, because there's 15 extra cards and we don't know what they're going to be that are supposed to be end of set, you easily can turn 8 of those into the other half of the monster characters, whether they turn them into assets or actions or attacks or something. And then you still have 7 cards for the last page.
The only thing I would say about that is, unless there's more art, basically each of the characters only has like 7 unique attacks. So including their character art, that would only be like 8 arts. So like you kind of fall back on that.
So wait, you could have 2 characters on the page and then 3 attacks and whatever assets or actions.
Well, that's the thing. So like it's the character, like the transformed character, and then like 2 ultras and then like 5 regular attacks. Yeah. So it's basically like 9 pieces. So like it's possible that they sort of have like an extra, like, I don't know if all the art that they got they used for the Exceed game, or if they might have more
for the upcoming board game.
Yeah, now they're doing the board game. So like, it's certainly possible that there will be art in this that wasn't in the Exceed game.
Sure.
And if that's the case, then sure, these characters can have like other cards on their page that aren't that don't include like the transformed artwork. But yeah, that's what I'm not sure about. Like, if it's just the same pool of art, like I think that whatever the transform form is needs to be like on the page with the characters.
Yeah, because if it's what you're talking about, so like if they do it that way, let's say it's like the transformed character becomes a slot on their 9-page support, then you have these 15 cards at the end of the set that like they either just have to have that many end of set cards, or like that seems like a lot.
Well,
like,
I'm wondering if
the thing is like there's 8 to 10 characters that they have art for that aren't in the set. So like I think it's pretty easy to do like Indians where you just have like a 15 or 20 or whatever, like
random
just
cards,
extra cards at the end where you just kind of like slot in some cool stuff from like people that didn't make the cut.
So do you think that with this new mechanic, if the transformation thing is a new mechanic or whatever, do you think that it would just be like maybe on, like speculating, obviously, like on damage, maybe they hit desperation, you flip, or is there like an action, or you have to fulfill some requirement? What do you
guys think?
They'll
make them like combo based. Like they're gonna have a specific mechanic that they want to do in their deck, and it's like if you have like something like here's something lame like. When you hit 5 momentum, you can flip your character over. And so it's a character that wants to generate momentum and then do something. Sure. And then probably on the other side, you have a mechanic where you spin your momentum to get really good abilities. You could have something where when you have X amount of attacks removed in your removed from game pile, you can flip over your character and then you have something to do with your abilities. Like it's take mechanics of UFS, but like not necessarily make it just be desperation stuff because we already had a set that did that.
Yeah, it's very true.
And relying on your life total, I think it's more so going to be like there's a mechanic this character wants to do when they fulfill this requirement because that has counterplay, they can become whatever they want to.
Well, the other thing too is like if it's not desperation, like presumably you have more control over it. You know?
Yeah.
Like if it's just like, well, you got to get to desperation. It's like, okay, well, I either need to find a way to like cut myself down or I need to like tank attacks.
That's true. I think actually that would be the lamest of them all.
Yeah.
So I think I want something a little more interactive or something. Not like, oh, I'm just going to either tank or like I'm going to want to, maybe you have to collect a certain amount of like foundations or you have to have, maybe you hit so many attacks or like the momentum gen thing. Actually sounds fine.
So like, I just don't think that they're going to do anything that's flip because at the end of the day, like you have stuff like, I mean, the point is you can put any card in your deck. Mm-hmm. You know, like, you have stuff like Quan Chi, you have stuff like Ermac, and, you know, even just what's like Marathi is just like, oh, I'll throw in a character and, you know, it has a 6 on it for my like damage pump. Mm-hmm. So like if you make like a double-sided like character, you really can't just like slot that into a deck.
I think you can though. I think there's already unprecedented like there's rules about flip mechanics in Magic, which is an entirely old game, where either it means you keep a little side stack of cards and you have a card in your deck that's delineated by this flip card and you substitute it in whenever it comes in. Like there's rules and I don't know, Jasco's great at changing the rule book whenever they need to when a new set comes out. And so I think it's easily something they could add in because they want to do something cool, fun, and innovative. Mm-hmm. The only reason why I don't think they'll do the flip thing is because I did that math on the card set. I just don't think they have 15 cards for the end of the set that they want to dedicate for a bunch of one-offs. I think they want it to be something closer to like 7, and so they're going to turn these characters either not, or like their transformations either into not character cards and be like actions or assets that go into support, or they just become extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I guess that's it. Yeah, I mean, if you want to just have like kind of like a side deck, like you said, where it's sort of once you do this, like you can just throw out like, I mean, it's kind of what the old thing for like on meal, where it's like Onmeal? If you had both of the angels and you played this action, like you could discard those, find on meal, and he like became your character. You know, I don't know if it would be that involved or if it would just sort of be something like where once you did a certain thing, like you could swap in. The one thing with if you're sort of going more by the Exceed theme is it doesn't make sense sort of thematically that they are completely independent character cards because it kind of doesn't make sense that you could play a game like starting in the transformed state. That's sort of something that's supposed to be like unlocked, that's supposed to like happen as the game progresses. So like that's why I think it won't I hope it's not something like maybe like Krieger's or something where it's just like a one hand size, like one health, and you can like
you just stack
attach
it and you get
somehow. Yeah, I hope it's like a little more.
I want a full transformation
involved than that.
Yeah.
Honestly, the thing that I sort of keep thinking of, and like I don't know if it's the best way to do it, but it's a way to do it, is like Rush Jet for Mega Man, where it's just like the action where after you like. I think for that, what is it? When you're like ranged attack
deals damage, you attach it.
Yeah, like you attach it, and then like all your like once per turn or twice per turn. I mean, you could definitely do something like that where, right, it would be like some kind of condition where once it was fulfilled, you could like attach it, and then like with an attached action, like it's going to be harder for your opponent to like do stuff to knock it off.
Sure.
So
yeah,
I think going back to like looking at this set and comparing it to a lot of like Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers, I think we can actually make a lot of like guesses based off of it, is I do think these characters, because of this, even just in this hint of wording of like new and strategy and stuff like that, I don't think these characters are going to work very well with a lot of cards outside of the set. Whether it be because the cards are going to have to do with transformations, or the cards are going to be maybe really specific on keywords that don't have a ton of synergy across other ones. I don't think it's going, and for that reason, I think we're going to find a lot of these, like, just like in Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers, like Akuma 2 has a really specific mechanic that really only Akuma 2 gets to do, maybe with Gyro Man stuff. And like I think we're going to see a lot of that kind of similar stuff within the mechanics on whether they turn these characters into their mechanics to like work with the transformation stuff.
Sure.
So I think we're going to see a lot of exclusivity in the decks built from them, which I do know a lot of people weren't a fan of that design philosophy from Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers. But it also means that like it probably might help customer-wise, because it means like unless you want to play one of these characters, you don't have to buy the cards from the set.
True. Like that's what the back page could be used for, to incentivize people. Hey, there's some good cards on the back page, you know, or whatever, or maybe the characters will have a few extra, like, you know, in their support, they'll have something like an ability that works towards the transformation, and then you know, like most cards, like you may not play both abilities on the card sometimes, or you may not even be able to play like Flashy Shadow Kick. Unless you're playing Johnny Cage, that card's half dead, you know, so...
and it's one of those things, too, like, but, like, if they do make it to where the transformations are extra character cards, and the only reason why that was even a thought on why you could do that is because the way the characters are described in their, like, playstyle definitions, if you go look on the store page for the Exceed, like, expansions and the way that it's laid out, they talk about each of the characters, and like I took a screenshot of them and I sent them to y'all, and they like have a description on how each character plays the game. There are two, like under each character, it really feels like there's like two different ways to play them, or they like specialize in two certain mechanics of like Exceed. I don't know how to play that game, but that's what it sounded like. And so from what that means is like, well, the two characters could be like stackable, and you can start off as like a transform form, which I know doesn't make sense Exceed game-wise, but like if they're basing it more off the board game, maybe it might just be like a preview to it, which means that if that's the thought, the interesting thing is that almost every single character in the set might have character stacking like cards, which means all these other character stackers in the past of UFS get a really big buff in this set, which I think is interesting because they're really irrelevant. As of right now. Nat P, you don't play as a character stacker. Eda 9 is like the only one that can like actually plays character stacking. Mega Man is not a character stacker anymore because he lost one.
Yeah. Well, he's about to lose another one.
He's about to lose another one. Yeah. And it's like all these characters that came out with Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers have the ability to character stack, but they're not good enough to do it. And so it's like I think that might be a really good thing to do. Gemini Man's a character stacker, but he's not strong enough. So I think if that's the mentality, it could be a really good buff for that kind of like mechanic of the game. But that's really kind of like reaching down and like based off of what they decide to do. I really think they might do the flip thing, which is really weird. I don't know why I'm committed to that.
I really want them to do the flip thing.
Like I would bet money that it's probably the flip mechanic.
I've had this like, really weird theory that if we get the flip mechanic right, so that opens avenues into other IPs that have transformations, like a Dragon Ball Z, because that you just, oh cool, I go Super Saiyan, blah, or like Bloody Roar, you transform into an animal, boom, you know, you transform into the animal. I think there's some other animes that have like that, just like that's like every shonen, right? It opens
avenues of this like. Yeah. You can think, like, we're losing quite a few Mega Man sets. Like, so, like, it's just something to where, like, in a future Mega Man set, you can have a Mega Man character that is basic Mega Man on the other side, and on the other side, he flips over and uses an ability of one of the Robot Masters that he's beat or whatever, right? Or it's just, like, adding a flip mechanic could do that kind of interesting thing. I don't know. Like, it's so hard. We're so early on to, like, the theory crafting.
Well, because in the tournament rules for the latest version of our tournament floor rules, that is, our sleeves have to be non-see-through. Like, you can't Rob must be dying, so he's okay. Like you can't have see-through sleeves, so you could have these characters in your deck because you have an opaque or a colored sleeve. So you could technically still stack the characters in your deck.
Mm-hmm.
So
but, I think it also is just like the like extra, like if all of these characters are character stackers in their sense, and it's not like a ton of character stacking. It's like the same level of Edit 9. Is like I have my one character, and then I run 3 copies or 4 copies of like my transformed form in my deck.
Yeah.
Which is not a lot of deck space, and it opens up just to like you can play cards that synergize with 0 mid blocks. You can play more 6 checks.
See now, I wonder if they're gonna because in Soul Calibur 6, I'm gonna go outside and put my conspiracy theory hat on. There was a lot of cards in there that kind of had us thinking, like, hey, man, they must have looked at our My Hero Academia set and they stole some shit. Because they did. I hands down think they did. So maybe they're taking some because we had a character stacker in that set that had cards that character stacked, and there were ways, just some other items that allowed. It was Tokyo, the bird guy. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, the bird guy,
Yeah, Fugakame or whatever, I don't remember. I haven't watched the show in like 6 months. But
Rob said, I'm real dumb.
Yeah, he probably just left something on the oven, so he's probably... I'm going to say that. But there may have a way to... So he could stack. If he checked them, he had an ability that if he checked one and he paid a momentum, he could stack it automatically. So maybe we'll have some neat stacking mechanics in there, like unlike... like Gemini Man, I block, I bring it, I attach. Maybe there's like something like that.
Back to the flipping, if it does flipping instead of characters, is we were talking about like ways that they could flip, right? And like Desperation is like a really easy one to come out to my mind, and because it's so easy, I think it's the most lame.
Yeah, I agree.
Specifically because like all these characters are going to have different symbols of the game, because then we're essentially putting Desperation in every single symbol, which just eliminates the like exclusivity of it. And then and then another thing came to my head. It was like, okay, well, if the other form is something that you unlock as you are playing the game, it could be something aside from like fulfilling a mechanic. It's almost like if you play Hearthstone, like a quest mechanic, like stuff like that, where like you build your deck around this character's mechanic, and after you do it enough times or meet a condition, you can get this really strong effect or strong card. Or their ultra rare attacks, again, this is the like a lot of these cards are going to be exclusive within the set. Their ultra rares will have an effect on them that comes something along the lines of do something and flip your character over, which means you have to use a specific attacks to flip your character over. And I think that would have the most like synergy within like the game or the lore. Because like they're supposed to like rely on them at like desperate conditions, basically. And so like if you play the specific ultra rare attack and you pay the cost to flip your character over, and then like your character like does some sort of synergy during the enhanced step of that attack or something, like it can also just be like a very brief flip effect where it's like flip your character over, use an ability, and then flip right back kind of thing.
Oh sure, yeah.
It'll be interesting.
I've played Exceed once, and I was Schecter, and I was super hyped to get Schecter. Oh, it was BattleCon, and
it's not Exceed,
but I played BattleCon just to go back on a level 99 thing, and I was super hyped for Schecter when we first saw her, and then they changed everything. So we know that's not going to happen. So whoever you get hyped for art wise, because I imagine we'll probably start getting previews next week. I've already been told by Sean Kennedy that we got our first 2 choices for it. So thank you very much, guys, because we're awesome, and I was on the ball, kids. So Rob, do you want to talk about the 2 characters that we're getting a bit, and maybe sprinkle some lore or anything
we can
else?
just sort of like run through the list if you want.
That's fine.
I mean, I can also read like these character descriptions I was talking about.
That's cool, man.
Kind of interesting.
Technically, it's our first reaction video, so
I was gonna say whatever. You can like read what the description is, and if I have anything that like I can add to it, like I'll be happy to.
Sure. So this goes in order of the packs of Exceed. So they're not in alphabetical order or anything. So Joffrey utilizes a mystical sword and powerful defensive spells of protection in a never-ending war against the forces of darkness. His unstoppable attacks threaten wide areas of the arena. Don't know what that means, but whatever. So he's a big AoE
so that's like the gameplay style? Okay.
Okay, yeah, it's their gameplay style in Exceed.
He's because in Exceed, you just go back. You actually go... Is Exceed in a bigger map? Because I know BattleCon's back and forth in a row.
It's actually, I believe, it might be a little bigger. It's, I think... What's BattleCon?
BattleCon's it's one. It's one slot, and it's back and forth.
No, but I'm saying how many spaces? Isn't it like 7?
It's 7 or 8.
Okay, because I think Exceed is 9. I think it's a little bit wider.
Okay.
And
so he has area
actually,
effect
if you want to just go through, because I know everything from Church versus Empire is in the set. So if you want to just run through all 4 of them, and then we can talk about it a bit.
Selinka is a golem possessed of immense strength and sacred power, who has guarded the world for countless generations. However, her innocent exterior belies a darker secret.
Ooh, she's a mysterious lady.
Taisei channels dark magic and deadly swordplay to pressure his opponents. Though he begins a game weak, his vampiric attacks make him difficult to kill, and he can even return from death.
Ooh, that would be sick.
That's an interesting one.
Dude, just think if you die. Like, say, and he comes back with,
flip over.
You just flip him over and he's back. He's like, there's no way he starts at full health, but maybe half health.
Maybe he's like a 615, and when he dies, he flips over and he starts at 12 health or something.
Yeah,
it's the thing. It's I believe his his monstrous form tool is Dullaham, so he takes his head off and shit. And it's separated from his body.
Oh, that's awesome.
So what if you need an action card or something, and it's all behead yourself? It's just cut your head off. All right, so moving on, we have Dejanette. Commands the powerful magics of an ancient diabolic empire. She uses these spells to threaten the entire battlefield at once, as well as grant herself increasing power over time. Those are the 4 from the first Exceed set.
So. I know that from my mine, and I believe Chris's conversations with the Jasco guys, I believe that Brad had a fair amount of say in which characters sort of got featured in the set.
Yep.
Which makes sense, it's his IP. And so I guess the main conflict in the sort of Exceed world. I don't remember what I said in the last one. I think I said it was somewhere between the 20s to 40s or something.
It is the 20s.
Which it is 2029, something like that. Yeah. So it's basically right. The Church, which is sort of fighting the monsters, and then the Dark Empire, which is the monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So these obviously Jeffrey and Selinka are sort of agents of this Church of Inquisition or whatever it's called, and then Dejanette and was it Tianlon?
Tinsai?
Yeah, Tinsai.
Taisei.
Are sort of the opposite. They're agents of this
the Dark Empire.
Dark Empire, right? Of the monsters and whatever. I know that. Joffrey, right? He's just sort of a knight.
He's a Templar.
You would sort of think of him if you know the Helsing stuff. I think he'd sort of be a Father Anderson. Okay, or for Guilty Gear, he'd be Kai Kiske, something like that, where it's just sort of the generic
he has protagonist armor.
Yeah, he's a good guy. You could just say he's Yusuke Urameshi then. There you go.
I don't know what that is.
Selinka to me seems like a female version of Hellboy, where she is a monster because she's a golem and has the horn,
but she's a good guy.
But works for the Church, so she's helping eradicate other ones.
Yeah. She kind of has a Mei Lin thing going on about her, doesn't she?
Well, the stuff that I saw with that is she's the monster that she's supposed to be based on, at least in her normal form, is the Kieran, which if you played Monster Hunter, you're familiar with. It's the unicorn with lightning. So I think a lot of her attacks seem to have elements, elemental. So there's definitely some fire, some water, sort of electricity.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely seems sort of a elemental character. And I know they sort of said that her like clothes are supposed to be like paper because it's supposed to be sort of like the prayer like slips that you like hang up at like shrines.
Oh, sure.
But right, so she's sort of an enchanted like statue or whatever, like a golem.
A golem. Yeah.
I know that her gameplay in Exceed involves like sealing her cards, which in Exceed terms is removing them from the game. So she might have something like a little bit like a Ken or a Jet, where like she removes stuff from the game and then like can somehow like gains power through that.
This is all speculation.
Yeah, like this one is.
This is all speculation.
We're
like
10
attack,
half.
She gets +1 speed for each differently named normal attack in your sealed area. So like for each one, the different one that's removed, this thing gets faster, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then like what? So like her monster form is called the Gaki, and it looks super fucked.
Right. I think what that like basically like removes your entire discard, doesn't it?
When you exceed, read your discard. I don't know what it is.
He's like, I don't know how to play this game.
I can't read it.
It's all right.
It's terrible. Whatever.
But yeah, so right then the other guys like
Turnaloose?
Tensai, right?
Taisei. It's Tensai.
Why do I think the N is like? Why do I think there's an N at all?
I don't know. Tensai.
It just got stuck in there, and it's
I'm
gonna
saying
be that forever.
Perfect. And his effect is your life begins as half its maximum at the beginning of the game.
Okay, so like in Exceed, everyone starts at 30. So right, he would be 15.
If you would reach 0, you may exceed instead. So you turn over, and it says when you exceed, either gain half your life or set your life to something.
Huh, that's cool. So maybe you're right, Rob. Maybe he starts out like 12 health, and then you flip him, and he comes back with 15.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like it's definitely interesting. Yeah. I feel like some of the level 99 stuff, like...
Oh my gosh. Wasn't there a character a long time ago in UFS that cuts his maximum life total to increase his hand size?
It was, I think, there was.
Yeah, I think it was Guile. I think he cut his hand size to increase his life, but... yeah.
He could definitely do that.
Or was it, I guess Ukio did something to, like, draw up to his hand size, too.
Ukio would reduce his hand size to draw up to his hand size.
Yeah.
As a form.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ukio is
Dan
Hughes' favorite character.
Yes, he is. Yep. I got my ass beat by that deck multiple times.
I don't want to be here too long. I want to keep reading.
Yeah, and go ahead.
All right. Zolt or Zolt.
It's Zolt.
Is a professional monster hunter with a wide variety of weapons. His versatile tools allow him to adapt to the situation and string together combination attacks that leave his rivals with no quarter. So weapon combos.
There you go. Yin and yang, baby. He's gonna have combos. He's got fire. Don't know. Just gonna guess.
And then within the same box, he's with Tournelouse. Utilizes diabolic power to grow stronger and stronger as he fights. Mm-hmm. Once he has enough to obliterate his opponent, his true form allows him to crush all resistance.
Oh, that's kind of neat. So maybe if he's winning by so much, or if your opponent, something happens or something,
that could be like a momentum thing.
Like a momentum thing, sure.
So I know, right? I mean, Zoltz is basically just like a Van Helsing type, where I think he's like he fights like with the church, but he's not necessarily like a member of it.
Gotcha.
And then Turnaloose, I think, is basically like like a demon or something, where he's been around. Like, I know in like the lore, it's sort of something where there was obviously like a fight between like an ongoing conflict between the church and the empire, and I think he's supposed to be someone that was around for like the early days and kind of like escaped like eradication or whatever, and is still like I don't know if he's necessarily like still directly like affiliated with them, but it's kind of like he's definitely one of the bad guys.
His biggest ability is called Netherstorm, and it hits for 13 damage.
Yeah, there's a picture of it. I grabbed a screen.
He's all
of it. Yeah, he's like, Netherstorm.
Yeah. It looks pretty good. All right, who else is left? Okay, Eugenia delves into madness through sorcery, driving her opponents to the brink by destroying their cards and growing stronger as her enemy's situation becomes more dire. She's the Cheshire. She's Cheshire Cat. Yeah. She's like the Cheshire Cat girl. And then the same one is Remilith is a living weapon of mass destruction with the ability to compound her attacks for additional power. Once she unleashes her true form, she becomes nearly unstoppable. To me, compounding attacks sounds like multiple based, I would think. Like, that's kind of what it sounds like. Something like crit split effect, where like this first one's weak, and then like
she could be like a powerful character, since like, you know, she could just be, hey, I'm gonna dump all this momentum, or use her attacks as momentum, maybe something like that. You know?
Yeah, but she's also a weapon of mass destruction, so she might just also like use her own vitality for really strong effects.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I don't know a ton about Eugenia. I know like she's basically like a witch. And I know that like Remilith is basically like you said, like a living weapon. So I think she was supposed to be like created by like alchemists or something. So she's effectively like a bunch of energy in like a containment suit.
Atom. That's right. We were talking about
that. Yeah, I basically like the easiest way to describe her is basically like DC Comics, like Captain Atom.
Yeah. Yeah, and her big ability is Queen of Hearts, which is the
that's
Eugenia.
Yeah, Eugenia. That's what we're talking about, right?
No, we're talking about Remilith.
Oh, okay.
we're talking about
both of them.
Yeah,
man.
like the Cheshire Cat one. Is
well, you're right. So she's discard based because her big one is your opponent discards their entire hand and then just draws one card, and this will get +1 damage for each card they discard.
Oh, that's cool.
Basically, so it hits very weak. It's only for 1 damage by itself, but it's really fast. But then it gets more based off of.
So she's probably gonna have Death and Void then, if they match with they go along with her theme, Death and Void. Probably Chaos, I would say. Maybe Chaos, because that seems like
Chaos needs help.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I think Chaos just because of like Cheshire Cat kind of theme.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Yep.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think those are the two characters we're also spoiling people. I got confirmation from Sean Kennedy today that we were the first to ask for preview characters, and since we were the first, we got the pick of the litter, and we got the 2 coolest characters out of the 8, in my opinion. So,
I think Remilith has the coolest art.
I'm gonna go out there and say I like the art and everything I've seen from this.
So they all look great.
I think it looks great, man. It's like I actually like the Cheshire Cat. We have a piece on the slideshow that the Cheshire Cat thing looks really neat. Same thing with the Queen of Hearts, because it's just awesome. I don't know. It's just like the Endine's art was really good. It was good. Some of it was all right, and some of it was hit or miss. But every piece I've seen from this, I think, has been fantastic so far. Yeah. Cool.
I think there's a lot we can talk about. I think until they really reveal
for sure.
This new strategic thing is, like it could be like really lame.
Anything.
Like it could be anything.
Yeah, it could be.
It could be really lame. It could be I don't know, like they add a new keyword or something. Which I guess wouldn't be lame. I think that'd be nice.
But I think though, like they're toting this as like a new thing, and the way the game has been, I don't think it's going to be. I think it's actually going to be kind of game breaking in a way where it's like you're going to want to play these characters for this, because it gives them a decided advantage when they hit that.
It's definitely got to be worth. It's got to be a big bang for whatever the big difference is. Because
the
again,
juice has got to be worth the squeeze, is what you're trying to say.
Yes, exactly. Because if the set is as exclusive because it's doing this whole new mechanic or whatever, and especially until they come out with more cards later on that either use the mechanic as well or they don't because it's so exclusive, you definitely have to make that decision of like, is this mechanic worth it, or am I still just going to be playing my Soul Calibur 6 characters, Mortal Kombat characters, stuff like that.
I agree. But yeah, I have a feeling that we all are pretty happy. I know Rob's pretty excited because his prediction was correct. And it's something
honestly,
he's really interested in.
I'm not sure. I mean, I probably haven't been like this excited about like UFS sets since like probably like Battle for Power. So
cool. We got him back.
That's terrible now.
Yeah, that's bad.
Well, I like Mega Man. So
yeah, I know. Yeah.
I would love another Mega Man set. Just I'll take 2 dots, all of them. I don't care.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. Yep.
But yeah, I honestly like the biggest thing too. I would say is sort of like kudos to Jasco for pushing this back. I know like there's people that are still like, oh, I wish it was longer, but honestly, I mean, if everything's like already gone to print, like you know, and the wheels are turning, like they didn't really have to delay it at all.
Nope,
I don't. And I think the fact, I don't think they had to at all. And the fact that they're only delaying this by 2 weeks, I think is a pretty good sign that they're going to stick with the rest of the release dates.
Yeah, I think so
too.
I think so.
I think that's what's really like. They could have easily just like give it an extra month. And then to be like, well, then that release that we have scheduled for what is it, like July or something?
Yeah, it's Rockford.
Sure.
It's the week after the Rockford PTC.
Right. So like whatever. Like then that one, they're like, well, because we pushed the other ones back, we got to start pushing them all back. And I think 2 weeks is a good time frame of like you don't have to mess with that at all because it's still coming out of May.
Gives you like 2 months before the next set.
So. That's what I sort of thought. I thought like almost the idea would be like to push back the middle ones a month. But, you know, like basically, right, if you push back the first one enough, you have to push back. Then it's sort of like cascades.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any of them would get like close enough to like the November one that it would really be a big deal. But the other thing too is like it's a smaller set. You know, it's only 88. So I mean, I guess that's not. What is that? That's like, never mind. I mean, I guess to get to what the whatever this Soul Calibur is like, what, 108? So that's 20 cards. I mean, that's almost what 20-25% more. So yeah, I mean, it's
also one of those things where it's like, if this product is as ready as we think it is, and they will start giving some of this stuff away at Worlds, then like the complaint that people are saying, like, well, I got to go to Worlds, I got to pay for Worlds. Like, well, if you're getting this product for doing well at Worlds, or just going and participating at Worlds, or you turn in your redemption packs to play for Blackjack because they have packs ready, then you don't have to spend as much already.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so like if you're already catering towards this big expense, I think they might be rewarding people with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only real thing I think is just like coming out too quick, like you start to undercut Soul Calibur as well. So I think people would just want a little more time with Soul Calibur before they start mixing up the meta again.
Yeah.
Everyone likes like the shiny new, so it's it's sort of nice to give each set or license kind of its like moment in the sun. But I mean,
I think Worlds is a big enough event now to give you Soul Calibur.
Moment in the sun than Worlds. So
yeah. Very true. All right, cool. So I think that's a very good point to end. So this video is coming out tonight as of recording. I'm going to edit it, throw it out. Don't forget about our live stream tomorrow. There are Arkansas PTCs tomorrow. Me and Tim are going to commentate over the restream. Thanks to Brian Harris again for letting us do that. Catch weekly episodes of the God Treatment like the ticker underneath us says. Please do. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what's your favorite character off of hearing what Barrett said. Let us know what you guys think. Did you like this idea? Do you not like this idea? Are you happy it's pushed back? Are you not happy it's pushed back?
Other cool thing they're setting up for, I know we have not heard much about DLC sets, and so a lot of people are kind of really mystified about it. But there are, as Rob has said, there's a ton of characters that are not listed on that list, and so they easily can just do that. So I think that's also really good about this set is that they're kind of sticking with like the future proof of like the DLC packs.
Very true.
Well, that's something too is like with Indie. I mean, I think Indians is what now like. Once this comes out, it'll be like 2 sets away from rotation because I think it came out after Warriors of the Night. Yeah. And if that's the case, maybe like instead of having Indians DLC, they'll just have Seventh Cross DLC.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
I'd be cool with that.
Sweet.
DLC Monado, let's go.
Let's do it. I want to hit some fuckers with a cab. And with that, I'm saying goodnight. Later, everybody.